Hi everyone, this is Mary Reed, and I wanted to take just a few minutes today to share some thoughts on all the fear that people are experiencing right now that seems to be very up in the world. I get a lot of emails about it. And I was having a conversation about this last night with my colleague Corrine in Australia. And so we had a very good talk about the various techniques that we can offer and perspectives that we can offer that may be helpful for people. So I'm going to share 5 different techniques about that. I'm also going to answer the question of, is everybody affected by the possible outcomes here that people are worried about, which relates to issues of karma and lineage healing and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to try to give an analogy. I'll admit it right here, it's a very stupid analogy to understand fear, but it may be helpful to understand why we live in such a fear-based environment and how that's changing now. Before I talk about the practices that can be helpful in dealing with fear, I'm going to just say 2 reminders here. One is a reminder that nothing is permanent. Nothing that's happening right now is permanent. This is everything rising and moving through, rising and moving through. Nothing is permanent. We're not stuck here. We're going through here. And the second thing is there's nothing wrong with fear. There's nothing at all wrong with fear. Fear is just as divine. It's from the exact same origin as everything else. The difference here is that the only thing that fear knows is to be afraid. That's its nature. That's its pattern. The experience that we have of this pattern is to be afraid. And as Paul Selig's guides so beautifully say, the action of fear is to claim more fear because that's all it knows how to do. So as we live in a fear-based environment, we just keep reclaiming more fear. So nothing is permanent, and there's nothing wrong with fear. It's just doing what fear knows how to do. All right, so I'm going to share just a few thoughts on some simple practices to help people. It's along a wide continuum here of ways that we can deal with when we're really mired in that looping and that sort of magnetic pull of fearful thoughts. So the first few, Corrine just offers from a therapeutic approach. There's a name for these first couple, but I don't remember what she called them. But one of the techniques is to imagine all of your fearful thoughts, all the stories, the thoughts that are telling you fearful stories in your head. If you took all of those thoughts and you wrote them out and you made like a screenplay of them and you made it a scene in a movie, and you give this movie a very dramatic title, and then you have all of those thoughts as the dialogue and the possible plots and directions and actions of this scene in this movie. So what this does is it disconnects us from the story we're actually telling ourselves internally, and it helps us to use our own creativity, our own agency to do something different with it. And we can see that all of this is just a story, and now we can clearly see that we can make it any story that we want. So that's one technique. The second technique is along the same lines, using all of those fear-based thoughts and the stories that those are telling and turn them into a silly song. Just give them some kind of melody, some kind of silly interpretive dance if you want. But here again, what we're doing is pulling them out, and we're using our agency to give those thoughts a different purpose, a different energy, and we're disconnecting them from the internal dialogue. And it just helps us see more about, wow, this is just a story going on inside of me. And when I put it out here in this format, I can see how silly it is that I keep believing these possibilities. The third technique is actually quite helpful and important to understand. There's a technique where you can take all of your fearful thoughts and put them, like you might imagine putting them all in the palm of your hand. All the possibilities, all the stories, all the worries, all the concerns, and put them in the palm of your hand. And when you got them all there, when you feel like this is your treasure trove of fearful thoughts, and you can hold that then your palm up like right in front of your eyes, so that all you see is the world of these thoughts, which is what we feel like when it's really looping in our head. This feels like our world. And really, we're mired in this. Now, this perspective is actually what all of the old systems of our world rely on you sustaining, rely on you maintaining. Not just our news that wants you keep coming back for more details, and we've got updates and we've got more information about this, and they want you like hooked in like staying in this world, in this view, but also our entertainment, our movies, our plays, our books, they all operate on the paradigm of fear and conflict. There's always a conflict arc, and it's literally mapped out in the stages of how to keep us hooked, how to stay in that tension, how to stay in this world, wanting more details, coming back for more. So our old systems, government is the same way. They give lots and lots of fear-based messages and the possibilities of something changing that's going to affect the quality of your life and all of these things. So these old systems of our world rely on us to sustain this perspective that fear is our view, our world, and the most important thing. Now, in this technique, what we can do is, as we recognize that this is where I'm keeping my attention, subconsciously or overtly, but we can begin to pull our hand back, our palm back just a little bit. And as we do this, we can still see our world is very prominent. Our world of fearful thoughts is very prominent. But now there's more things becoming evident in our awareness that is possible. And so as we continue this exercise and we go out further, not only are we feeling less attached in that weighty, dense layers of fearful thoughts, but now there's much more contributing to our awareness and contributing to the context of these thoughts. So that when we continue on and on and on, that much, much larger perspective then becomes more apparent and more prominent in our awareness. So that's a very good and simple technique to use to help manage our fearful perspectives and focus. One of the other things that Corrine offered here is a technique. It's a negotiation tactic, actually. She used to work in her previous world in high-risk management in countries that are centered in conflict. So one of the negotiation tactics that we can use in fearful situations or situations that we find ourselves really focused on fear is called hyperpresence. Being very hyperpresent to the exclusion of the no focus on the thoughts about a situation that's going on, whether it is real in the moment or perceived as a possibility. And in hyperpresence, it's just that. It's exactly whatever is present in this moment outside of a story, the facts about what's present. There's a desk in front of me. There's a camera in front of me. The quality of the light around me feels like this. The temperature is this. I have on a blue sweater. It's all just the hyper resting in whatever is a fact. So it brings us very, very rooted in the present moment, and we're not fueling the story about any situation. And this can be something that's an actual thing that's underway, like you have a threat of some kind, or you're in a scary situation, or a story about a possibility. It works the same in both ways. It really roots you here, and it does not fuel the energy of the situation. It doesn't heighten it or destabilize anything. So this hyper presence is a really good and helpful technique. And the last technique I want to offer to deal with our fear-based thoughts and detach from sort of that hardship that we feel being mired in them comes from my own experience. Now, I can only ever talk about things from a metaphysical perspective and only from what I have perceived or experienced personally. I have never studied these things. I don't know anything about doctrinal approaches or therapeutic approaches or that sort of thing. I can tell you what has worked beautifully and been extraordinarily healing in my own experiences and when I've worked with others as well. And this is just talking about the metaphysical awareness. So when I was in the conversation with my colleague last night, we did a meditation on this fear-based, everybody being mired in the fear and asking for something that might be helpful to offer. And immediately when we went in, this is what came up for me. So the immediate image, and it was like a 4-staged awareness. So the immediate awareness was of a boat on the surface of an ocean that's very stormy. So the boat is being rocked and tossed about. It's very dark circumstances. It's really rocking and rolling. And then right under that, I was taken into deep in the ocean in a submarine. So the submarine is just like sailing along in that same exact ocean way beneath the turmoil at the surface. So it's very calm. All the life is going on around it. It's just the flow. Everything is in the flow. And the third perspective then was way above the clouds, way above the stormy seas, way above the ocean, the clouds, everything was the sun, the cosmos, all that's going on in the much, much greater perspective. So what was visible was Earth down there where somewhere there's an ocean that's a little stormy at the sea, and then there's a submarine way at the bottom, and then there's stars and other planets and galaxies and other galaxies and all of just the greater view. But then the last and highest perspective was the awareness that's aware of all of that. The thing that is the awareness that can focus at any level, the cosmic level, the below surface level, and that topsy-turvy surface level. So this is that greater perspective is the I am. It is awareness itself, aware of its agency to cast its awareness no matter what's going on in any given situation. The awareness can be all of it. It can be one. It can be 2, 3. And awareness can be anywhere it wants. But the highest and most fun perspective is the one that is in the I am state of being. So we can choose at any time what vantage point we want to be in. We know that if we really focus in on a situation and really are in that fear-based topsy-turvy energy, that density and that's rocking and rolling, then that's going to be our experience. We know if we go in very deep and we're in that stillness state and we're in the flow, that's it. We know if we go up into the galaxy and we have that greater view, that's a possibility and much calmer and much more context. And then in the I am, which is the pure presence, it is the pure presence perspective. So all of these are available to you. All of those are related to our agency. Every one of the techniques I just talked about, we have agency with. We have a choice in being creative with our thoughts, in using the techniques to give us an understanding of how are we focused, and then practicing, if we want to practice, the greater perspectives and aligning with or cohering with that presence state of being. So all of these are a possibility. Now, I want to talk about also answering a question here that a lot of people have about whether or not absolutely everybody is going to experience some challenge because of the times that we're in. Are there people that can raise their vibrations so high that they're not affected? And I want to say very clearly that that's a very narrow point of view, because that assumes that one size fits all. And it's just not the case. It's just simply not the case. Everybody has their own unique life purpose, their own unique things that they're contributing, or they're learning, or they're healing, or they're releasing, like in a karmic release. So if people have something in their field or their life purpose or their contracts, if you will, with others, that it is important for them to have a significant challenge, then that challenge is going to come about in whatever way. The higher our state of being is, the easier it is for us to deal with that challenge, to go through that challenge, to learn the lessons or the perspectives that challenge offers. Now, some people have done loads and loads and loads of clearing or whatever, and it's not in their life purpose or karmic evolution to have to experience some of those things. So they may be largely untouched, and their contribution then is simply that higher state of being, and they're the love and compassionate presence that are appreciating and supporting others. But I also want to say, it's also a narrow view to think that something's going to happen to us in these times, that something may be possible, that we lose our rights or we're taken from our home or we lose our job or a loved one or these sorts of things, because that happens all throughout our life, that there is the ebb and flow of our journeys that inevitably have some kind of challenge or heartbreak or unexpected twists and turns. So these times are not really different from all others. You can see how the message of these times, the way that the news and the entertainment has made us focus, make us feel like this is more treacherous, more intense, and things happening now on the larger world stage and all of that sort of stuff. It's happened on the world stage many times previously, but now we're all aware of it at the same time. So life is full of the ebb and flow, and our opportunity is to get ourselves in that state more and more and more, so that no matter what we're dealing with, what we're faced with, we ourselves can go through it more easily and from a more loving standpoint and contribution, and also to be a stronger source of support and possibility for higher perspectives for others and for the world. Now, lastly, I want to talk about what my experience of fear is, and I'm going to use this analogy that I know is really stupid. I'm going to use a sock. But I can only talk about things in the way that I've experienced, and this is exactly how it is felt to me. Now, you might imagine that in our authentic origin state, in our divine nature state, in our unitive oneness state, we're all just like merrily exploring all that we are, all that we can experience, all that we can be aware of, all the ways that we can be aware. And that exploration is happening through patterns, vibrational patterns that create a manifestation of phenomena or experience. What we're aware of giving us this kind of experience of something. But they're all just patterns and reflective patterns that we're interpreting and then experiencing. But in our origin state, in our natural unitive state, we're doing all of this in union. We're aware of all of this being a unitive, embracing environment. But in fear, we're in a separation consciousness. We're separate from that. We have that veil that veils us from the knowing or experience of ourselves in a unitive state. Now, the way that I've experienced this is the actual pattern of fear being one that is not unitive. Fear doesn't unite. Fear is not a pattern that embraces. It recoils. That's what its nature is. It's not because it's afraid. And from personal experience, when we're afraid, we don't unite. We don't embrace. We recoil. Now, the way that I experience it energetically is you might imagine, we're just like going through our exploration in a unitive state, and every pattern that we're experiencing is magical. It's wondrous. It's awesome. It's amazing. And then we come into a pattern that rather than uniting and embracing, it causes us to contract. It causes an experience of recoil. Now, as it recoils, because this is an experience that's its nature, this is the nature of fear. It just claims more. It just keeps recoiling and recoiling because that's the pattern. And so as this is doing, we're contracting and we're getting denser and denser and denser until eventually we're kind of turned inside out. Our whole perception of self is separate. We're still in that love. We're still, the center is entirely the source. But our experience of the world now is inside out. So we've literally recoiled and we perceive ourselves as separate from everything that we're experiencing. When of course it's not true. This is just our experience of it. So in my own experience, it has always felt like we're in an inside out world. Everything is still the truth. Everything is still love. It is all still this. But we experience it inside out. And our whole world is built on just reclaiming more and more and more of the inside out world. We built a world to manage how it is to be this separate entity in this world. But what's happening now in our world as this density, as the recoiling, as the contracted nature of living in the human experience is releasing, is getting lighter and lighter and lighter, is that all of that is reversing. It is not the fear that is reversing it. It is the love. It is the influence of ever more of that higher energy coming in and releasing the density, the density, the density, until we begin to experience ourselves more naturally in our natural state. I know that's a really stupid analogy, but it is just simply to convey the sense of energetically we're inside out. We're living through fear and not through our nature of unitive consciousness. Now, more and more and more people, as those dense layers completely let go eventually, and now we're in that full unitive state, that's fully awakened living. That's fully awakened into a sense of being present in, as, and among everything. We are the expression of all of this through this vessel, this individuated vessel, but not separate vessel. So I hope that helps. It's just a simple little analogy. So I hope that those help. I realize that they're not fancy. They weren't intended to be fancy. They're intended to simply be accessible for everybody. So I offer all of these things to help everybody wherever you are on the continuum of facing fear, if that is your experience in these times. And if you feel drawn to community that focuses on very inspiring and energetically uplifting gatherings and information, you're welcome to join our Wide Open Wings community or engage in one of our WOW courses. We have a couple of courses and more coming that are very helpful for people to center and get grounded in and sort of be in a higher state in these times. That's so helpful. You're welcome to check those out on our website at happyeasylife.com. So I hope this helps. I love you, and our time together will be of benefit to all beings. Namaste, namaste.